He's an advocate of the High Court of Kenya and a political strategist. Mark Bichachi, communication strategist, and Dismas Mukua, political risk analyst. Many thanks, gentlemen, for making time.
Thank you for having me. All
right, now let's start with the latest developments. We want to highlight what happened in the ongoing tussle in terms of the deputy president assassination claims. We have a short story right here. We just want to highlight, and we can definitely get into the discussion.
Unusual guests at the Directorate of Criminal Investigations headquarters. Trade CS Peter Munya, ICT CS Joseph Musheru, Health CS Cecily Kariuki, several PSs, among them Energy PS Joseph Njoroge, and parastatal chiefs from the Mount Kenya region. The three CSs are alleged to have held a meeting at Lamada Hotel on the 14th of May, where a plot to eliminate Deputy President William Ruto was hatched.
At no time have we ever met anywhere, not just in Lamanda or anywhere else, to plan to kill the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya.
After spending over an hour at the DCI, they refused to record statements.
We wanted to write those statements, but it became apparent that there is no written complaint. There is no complainant.
In a letter doing rounds on social media, a cabinet secretary wrote to the office of the president claiming he was summoned by Interior PS Karanja Kibishu at Lamada Hotel. According to the letter, CSs Joseph Musheru, Cecily Kariuki, James Masharia, Peter Munya, PSs from the Mount Kenya region Laikipia and Nakuru were present. The agenda, the letter states, was to show up support for Uhuru Kenyatta, the proposed referendum, and how to go on the offensive against William Ruto.
The letter was shown to us, and we were told that this letter contains the allegations. But the DCI was not able to authenticate the letter. So we told them, if they authenticate the letter and they find it is genuine, and therefore it requires our response, we are ready to do so.
It emerged that Deputy President William Ruto made a call to the DCI, making a complaint over the plot to eliminate him.
The Deputy President has not recorded any statement. We have also asked those who received the call to reduce what they were told on phone in writing, so that we can be able to respond. They were not able to reduce that complaint into writing.
The CSs say they have been holding meetings at Lamada Hotel as a follow-up to a meeting held in Naivasha by Jubilee legislators from the Mount Kenya region on how to fast-track development projects. Meetings that Munya says will continue, with one scheduled for Tuesday this week.
Because these are very, very, very serious allegations. Very serious allegations, especially coming from the person of the stature of the Deputy President, occupying an extremely powerful and important office in this land. I would expect somebody in that office to do proper investigation. There are machineries to do that before making unsubstantiated and wild allegations of that nature. I think it's irresponsible.
With the Deputy President and a Cabinet Secretary making allegations against CSs they served together in the Cabinet, the latest developments point to silent divisions and growing discord in the Cabinet less than 2 years into Uhuru Kenyatta's second and final term. Rita Tinina, KTN News.
All right, in the local daily, it is the front page story right now with the highlights of the probe masterminds. The police have found evidence linking 2 senior officials to the fake letter that triggered those claims. Statements were obviously not recorded by Dr. William Ruto as well as the cabinet secretaries, but the DCI has given his assurance of the ongoing investigations. But it cast a dark shadow on the cabinet. Is there a split in the cabinet and Jubilee Party? Is it evident enough? Kipchumba Karuri, what's your take on this?
Yes, thank you for your time on this show. I think there are several things that have gone wrong in how we do things in this country. First of all is we have always tend to, anything that we cannot unravel as a country, we throw it to the political end. And I think over time, and also that is coupled by the accept and move on mentality, it has brought us to where we are. When we are discussing the plot to assassinate the number 2 of the country, I would think that it would have been handled in a better professional manner. It ought not to have been handled as part of a political narrative. Political narrative to the extent that why is it so much on the news, and why feed Kenyans with so much information? Any competent investigator worth the salt ought to have taken this thing and done it in a covert manner because of the intricate way and relations involved here, because you are discussing about cabinet, you are discussing about the presidency, you are discussing presidency, or the president is a symbol of national unity. Look at how we have handled previous things and mishandled them in the process. Compare this whole assassination thing and how we did with the Aurora and Kimwarer Dam. There was always nearly a daily basis briefing from DCI. But look at the casual manner we have handled this. It points towards more things, and it is a pointer to what the action points more to what is being done than what is being said. Look at the casual manner in the whole thing. I'm not an investigator myself, I'm not trained in forensic or anything, but my comment is to the effect that we ought to have exercised more caution. We have not seen Uhuru Kenyatta, the president, coming out and telling the country this is what is happening. We have only left this whole debate to politics and funerals and rallies. What we need to do as a country, anything that pushes this country to the extreme, ought to be treated with the caution it deserves. Any threat to life to anybody is a serious issue. It should not be conjoined with all the normal political lubris. But look at even how the CS has mentioned have addressed the issue. You cannot have a position like we could not write a statement because there is no complainant. That is not the position in law. Munya is my senior in the profession. He knows what a petition in 2018 pronounced itself as to when there is no complainant and how it is dealt. Two, whenever you see people act in a certain manner, know that there is something bigger than what they are doing. And then from where I sit, I will be very cautious, but I will say whatever we are seeing after the assassination discussion, what has come after that is succession politics. And sadly, Kenyans might never know what really transpired in Lamada or where the letter originated. Look at what we even address the issues. Instead of asking ourselves, I have been told there is an audio. I have not heard the audio. Instead of asking ourselves, can we authenticate the audio? Can we authenticate where are the minutes? Where is the agenda for that meeting? And then in any meeting of that nature where you are telling us there are 40 people who met, there must have been an invitation. How were these people invited? And secondly, to the other greater issue as a country, which we need to discuss. We have for a long time sat here discussed the issue of Mount Kenya needing development. It is time we go into that discussion of why should we embolden or put it in more in italics the reason why Mount Kenya needs development. Why don't we hear people discussing that coast needs development? Why Mount Kenya? And the other thing, every time we are told about to discuss the issue of development, we need to ask ourselves, what are the enablers of development? How do you come and discuss development in isolation of other regions? Yes, for them to meet it is their right, but it is time for us as a country to go deeper. We saw the other day on Friday, there was a meeting, which I think was the second or the third, between Matiang'i and the Nyanza leaders discussing development in Nyanza. It is done in broad daylight. When you do something in a clandestine manner, it opens up all these issues. And two, there is something that I must concede. If those people met there to discuss in their private capacities, because they are Kenyans in their private capacities, to discuss how to stop William Ruto from being president, that is allowed. That is allowed. Whether they can discuss that as civil servants is another question that Chapter 6 can handle. But just the mere discussion of meeting and discussing that we can stop William Ruto politically, that is allowed. There is no law they have offended. But if there was, and I'm saying if there was any sinister motive, that is what now the investigators should narrow in. And I'm glad that we are bringing FBI on board for any reason. But how the whole thing has been handled, it leaves a lot of questions unanswered. And it points towards more on succession politics than it is on the real issues.
All right, so it seems to be politicized, handled with political casualness, according to Kipchumba. What's your take on this?
My take is, first, disclaimer number one, I'm not an investigator. Therefore, my opinions come from a strategist.
Yes.
So when I sit here as a strategist, there's a tool that we look for in communication strategy when things are looking kind of bad, and you happen to have survived in that tool before 2013. And that tool is called sympathy, where you win the public to your side by showing them that you are the victim of stronger forces than yourself. Now, that theory is further supported by where this letter is purported to have come from. If it is written by my son, and it says about my assassination, then you know it is profitable to me to speak about said assassination. But also, simple deductive skills tell me that if you want to murder Mark Bichachi, and Mark Bichachi is not a very powerful Kenyan, and you meet 40 of you in a room, I will know about it. It is not quite effective to plan an assassination of anyone, even a chief in a village. You try planning with 40 people to murder a chief. Secondly, the four kingpins of this murder plot are very interesting kingpins. One sits atop our ICT infrastructure. Now, unless they've developed software where we can send you a virus on your phone and then the virus somehow kills you, it is unlikely that Musheru would be the most capable person to execute such a plot. Or unless you are planning to go to Kenyatta National Hospital and Madam Cicely has the wherewithal to call the doctor and say, please give him the wrong medication. Or maybe CS Macharia was supposed to fix a pothole on the highway, and you know those motorcades go very fast. So maybe that pothole could have done him in. That is essentially what we are saying is an assassination plot. Listen, if you buy that story, then from today Santa Claus is real and pigs fly. That is what you need to agree to, because that story is untenable. And the politics we are talking about here is therefore a politics that wants to take advantage of the sympathy of the Kenyan people to push a political agenda. That being said, there are a few things I disagree with concerning this meeting. Number one, and I agree with Kipchumba on this, the idea that CSs can meet to discuss development per region goes against the idea of a unified Kenya we are trying to talk about. A CS should consider himself a CS of the entire country. So if he is having a meeting and he's the CS of rocket ships, let me use it like that, then he must discuss rocket ships in view of the entire nation. But there is one thing I also agree with Kipchumba. The victimization of people who are targeting stopping the deputy president from rising to office is undemocratic. We cannot say that it is wrong and you are a villain if you do not support his bid, even if you are in cabinet. There is nothing wrong with that. In fact, if you look at the democratic race today in the United States, 24 senators are trying to stop, candidates rather, are trying to stop each other from rising to office. And they have offices and they have meetings in hotels and they have meetings everywhere. And top of that chart is how to stop Biden from becoming president. It is top of their chart. So in this democratic space, and I've said on this show again, this idea that we have a prince and an heir to the throne who was promised by the former king, and therefore anyone trying to stop them is betraying the nation, is wrong. And this is not about whether I support Ruto or not. I support democracy, and it is a very wrong frame to victimize people. This is not the United States during the MacArthur eras where you had to show absolute fidelity to an individual. Our fidelity is to the state, to the constitution, and to the people of this republic. It is not to an individual, because if indeed we saw our allegiance to William Ruto, it is only 10 short years and then he's done. So we need to be very clear that every Kenyan has the right to assemble, to picket, to demonstrate, to de-campaign William Ruto, and that is a right that is enshrined in our constitution and our laws.
Interesting. Let's take a look at what, let me just get a quote from what Deputy President William Ruto had to say about this. He said some people are known for propagating politics of division so that they can take advantage of the scattered Kenyans to seek sympathy votes. He brought it up, the sympathy votes issue. But let's move on. Even as you comment on what the other gentlemen have raised, the enablers of development. I mean, the top of the agenda was in terms of propagating support for the president in this alleged meeting, but also ensuring that development is in Mount Kenya region, something that has been complained over and over by the legislators from that side. What's your take on that as well?
Well, you know, there are several ways to look at it. Number one, if indeed there's a plot to assassinate the deputy president or any political leader, or if there's a plot to kill any human being in the world, then the police needs to do the investigations. But when it comes to the person of the deputy president, the best practice is you do these investigations below the radar. Nobody needs to know that there's somebody who wants to assassinate the deputy president. You do your investigations, very solid investigations. If you need to get the FBI, you need to get the Scotland Yard, even if you need to get the Mossad, you summon all the assets necessary. Then you pinpoint the suspects. Then for us, what we need to do is to wake up one day on a Monday morning and we are told 10 people have now been arraigned because they were part of a plot to assassinate the deputy president. Now, it's very casual and reckless for us to be told that somebody wants to assassinate the president, and then about a third of the cabinet has been summoned to the DCI. And on arrival, they say, we are not going to do any statements because there is no complainant. And all over in the world, we know that issues around assassination, you don't need necessarily to have a complainant. I mean, if there's word out there that somebody wants to assassinate any political leader, you're not going to sit on your hands and enjoy your pepper steak and wait for somebody to come from the woodwork and say that this thing is going to happen. So one would have expected that it was going to be deliberate, structured. Look at this guy wants to assassinate the deputy president, because indeed that's sedition, treason, a threat of national security, all of them rolled into one. Because a threat on the life of the deputy president is not a casual thing. It's not something that you wake up in the morning and then you say, we've been summoned to the DCI, there's no complainant, and as a result, we're not going to do any statements. That's on the first level. Then the second level, it would take mad men, 40 mad men, to go and sit in a room and say, now, we do not like the deputy president, we are going to assassinate him. Now, these 40 men you're talking about, each has got a driver, each has got a bodyguard. So, in fact, we're talking about 120 men. And where is this meeting taking place? In the neighborhood of the National Intelligence Service. So even if you are a very stupid man and you want to have this meeting to assassinate the deputy president, are you going to have it in the neighborhood of Lamada Hotel, which you understand has got a link to the NIS, where every conversation, even when you go to the bathroom, there's somebody who is knowing that somebody has gone to the bathroom. So it's I mean, you know, this is the kind of thinking that some of these politicians think that Kenyans are so daft so as to believe acts of fiction. Now, the third point about cabinet ministers meeting, there's absolutely nothing wrong cabinet ministers meeting with folks. It doesn't matter whether the meeting is at a Rambe house or whether it's a Lamada. One of the key responsibilities of any elected leader is to proactively look for the cabinet and, you know, share positions with them. If you come from Mount Kenya and for some reason you believe that you don't have enough Maendeleo, as they've made us believe, never mind that from independence they've had the lion's share. But they're making us believe that there is no Maendeleo in that part of the world. It's up to the elected leaders to proactively look for these cabinet ministers. So whether you're going to meet at Lamada, like they were meeting, whether you are going to meet at Dr. Matiang'i's office, like the leaders from Nyanza province did, The location is immaterial. I mean, now, as a nation, are we going to be reduced to start asking, there's a meeting taking place, yes, where is the location? Was the invitation by a text message? Was it a letter, WhatsApp? And if it was a letter, what was the letterhead? You know, those are very, very trivial issues in my view. And then the third thing, which is probably more important, how come the deputy president, we are told that he has refused to go to DCI? We don't have information. There is no information, tangible information from his office that in fact he has refused to go to the DCI. Then again, you see spins in the media that is the president who gave instructions. I've not seen Kanzedena state in black and white that the president has given instructions. Now, there are political camps in Kenya which are creating room for fake news and alternative facts. Some of the newspapers said that the president gave instructions. You go through the story, even with a magnifying lens, and you're trying to look for Uhuru Kenyatta, nowhere. You're looking for Waita, nowhere. You're looking for Kanzedena, nowhere. These are some of the reckless journalists that we should stop because they're being used as special purpose vehicles to spread propaganda. I mean, if Mark Bichache says Dismas is stupid, I expect him to be quoted that Mark Bichache said Dismas is stupid. So who are these guys who are telling us that the deputy president has refused? The deputy president has not given a statement to say in person that he has refused. And then President Kenyatta has given orders. Now, when you look at these, if you're a reasonable, rational man, then you come to the conclusion that obviously now we have Jubilee A, we have Jubilee B, and we have Jubilee C. The person in charge of Jubilee C is the president, is the one who is running the show. Now, there are people within either Jubilee A and Jubilee B who want to push the president to say something. Because, you know, one would have expected that the newspaper headlines say President Uhuru give instructions. I think they were pushing the president to a corner the following day to ask Kanzedena that go deny that I've not made this call. And if you look at it carefully then, is there a probability that somebody wants to craft an exit strategy and say that now I'm tired of this Jubilee A and B and C, let me move my own and set up my own vehicle? And in my view, there's that high probability. But it does not mean that we stop investigations on the assassination. Because you remember, I mean, people may dismiss it that it's mere allegations, that these are 40 people, but you know, it could be very serious. And what one would expect of the DCI and the FBI and the CIA, Scotland Yard, number one, is to tell us who authored that letter. Mm-hmm. And if the person is found, then he needs to give us, you know, the basics. Who was the sponsor? And what is the intention? Because what that gentleman has, or a lady, whoever authored the letter, what they managed to do is to waste our country's resources for 1 week. Instead of the DCI and DPP looking for guys who are stealing our cows and guys who are looting the economy, they are focused on this kind of story. But in my view, and making progress as a nation, anytime there's a case of assassination of this manner, if it's a fella called, a fella Wafula Munari in the village, then you know you can afford to bring the media every single day. But when you're talking about the person in the position of the deputy president, do it in the cover of darkness and let's see people being arraigned in a court of law. Right. But this idea of doing news conferences every hour, this idea of people going to all manner of political rallies and issuing threats is unacceptable.
And let's remember, and I just want to support Dismas, the investigation must be done. Because if this is the case of the boy who cried wolf, if there is a wolf, we want to catch the wolf. But if the boy cried wolf for no reason, then we also want to catch the boy. And this is because the amount of tension, the amount of tenterhooks, putting the nation on tenterhooks that this story has done, it cannot go unpunished. Okay. Because tomorrow I will run for MP, and there's an MP who won like this, who kidnapped himself the day before the election and reappeared in the morning to say it's okay to win sympathy votes. We cannot allow such things to happen.
All right. Now, Kipchumba, as we add on that, tension in the nation, yes, but tension in the cabinet shortly. What do you think about them transacting their business going forward shortly?
I think there was a time somebody talked about autopilot. We need to go back to that comment of autopilot. You know, when you call 10 people, let's say, for example, the disciples of Jesus, if you had called the 12 of them to come and preach, some to go to Galilee, others to go to Persia or whatever it was, others to go to Antioch to proclaim the word. amidst the way, because as a Christian believer, I believe that Peter was the deputy of Jesus in that setup. Amidst the way, you are told there are 3 people who are planning not to spread the gospel, but to kill one of the disciples. What if you are Jesus? What were you supposed to do? Therein lies the answer. I think also the other thing that is lacking in this country is not leaders, is not politicians and everything. We are lacking one component in our leadership: wisdom. We have a leadership that has allowed everything to go everywhere. Because at the end of the day, this cabinet belongs somewhere. This cabinet represents something. We cannot allow a nation where, if today we cannot sit together in the same cabinet and I have a feeling, or there is a feeling outside there, that you plot to kill me. It is not tenable. The same way, you cannot have people sitting in cabinet who are fighting each other outside here. What will happen is that there will be a lot of energies used at cross purposes instead of using energies to achieving Big Four. Now we are discussing, we have taken a whole week discussing a leaked audio of Raphael Tuju, the Secretary General. We are now discussing assassinations. In between here, nobody is talking about Big Four. Nobody is discussing what is happening in Elgeyo Marakwet, where people are being taken to forest each day. Somebody is texting, I'm being murdered, and they are found murdered the next day. We are now using our security apparatus to solve political problems. Going forward, Jesse, I think what we should do is this. And whatever we are experiencing in this country, we need to put it to the right place. Okay. We are experiencing all this confusion because of lack of unity of purpose within Jubilee. If Jubilee was at peace, and all those people are arguing about taxation models, others are arguing about how we should, the upstream movement of oil and gas from Turkana, the nation will be moving forward. Finally, the other thing that we need to talk about yes, is the issue of, if you are elected, you should be given time to serve. The president needs to be given time to serve. The deputy president need not to be made anxious. He should not be going to a function and thinking, are those the people who met at Lamada who want to finish me?
All right.
So the same should even be said about the cabinet secretaries. Okay. They should be allowed some latitude to reign.
Okay, well said, gentlemen. Now, unity of purpose lacking in Jubilee. That